Oh, okay. Oh. That's how you can tell when you can gauge how fast time's going by when they come every year or something. You know? Yep. Feels like that, yeah.
Okay. All right, it's 6 p.m., so we call the meeting in order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, February the 14th. If you would at this time, please rise for the invocation. And I guess I'll take care of that tonight. Somebody else wants to volunteer. Followed by our pledge. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. We ask for your blessings on this body and this community as we seek to do all those things that are pleasing to you. We also come to you tonight, Lord, and ask for our friend Commissioner Ellington's recovery from his most recent procedure, so that he can get back up here and be a part of this with us. We ask for your continued blessings on this country and for all those in service. These things we ask him. Amen. You join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay, when I call your name, if you would please come forward, either over there. You know, we're streamed, so we just want to make sure that we get you online so that people there can hear you and we can hear you. And you have 5 minutes. Policy is you address your comments to the board via the chair. So 5 minutes. So if you would, when I call your name, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and we'll go from there. I'm having a hard time with the first name. Neely, Avenue F. Did I say that right, Miss Neely?
Latrice Neely.
Okay, Miss Neely, just come forward. And
how everyone doing today?
all right.
I came to speak about the situation about Mr. Jeff Middlebrooks. I've been coaching over there for over 21 years. He's like a father, grandfather to a lot of the kids. And it hurts me because I know how much he put in a hard work to do his job over there. Because I don't think it's so much as a job. He treats everybody like family, you know. And I'm not here to plead or anything. I just feel like the whole situation was handled wrong. I just felt like a person gave you over 30-some years of his time. He should have been treated a little better than that, you know? So I just wish they would just look at the situation, and it ain't so much about his job, it's about him as a person. And, you know, like I told you, my son now is 30 years old, and I have a 32-year-old son. And I just wanted to say, while my son posted on social media, he said, Mr. Jeff Middlebrooks is a stand-up guy. He said, he's more like a father to me. And the reason I say that, because when my sons were youth, he gave both of them a job over there. And I'm happy to say now both of them got good jobs, they worked, and he taught them as young adults, because a lot of African American kids don't have their father in their life. And Jeff stepped up and was like a father to my children. And right now today, they still was going in the Civic Center to check on them. Actually, about 3 weeks ago to a month ago, my oldest son came in and he bought us lunch, me, Jeff, and the guys that was in there. So, you know, I just want to, if, you know, he retired, whatever the situation, I just want it to be dealt better than it was dealt with. I want to appreciate everybody for giving me, I'm kind of nervous, giving me a moment to speak. I just felt like I should have been heard, because I've been there as a parent and also as a coach. And like I said, I know Jeff. In 21 years, I've learned him, and he's more to me like family than just someone in the Civic Center holding a job. So I just wanted to speak my piece, and thank y'all so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Mr. Knight?
I'm Wallace Knight. I live on Gassett Road. I'm a long life. I've lived in Upson County all my life. You can tell that's a long time. I've known Jeff Middlebrook since my kids were small. They all played in the recreation department. I think Jeff is a stand-up guy. He's always done a good job, and I think he's an asset to the community. I don't quite understand the situation that went on that caused his termination. But I do know that the person that terminated him, we have tried to have meetings with her before. She's never at work. She's always working from home or in a meeting anytime we've ever had to have a meeting with her. So, and it's just my opinion that the wrong person was fired. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No other comments on that, or on any matter for that, so we'll move along. But I guess before we move along, because I just want to get it out there. I mean, obviously, two of you here tonight expressing concerns about the situation that, you know, I just want to make it clear that the Board of Commissioners, we have no responsibility or authority of hiring or terminating anyone. We are by our enabling legislation, we are not allowed to cross that line. So, but you know, I appreciate you coming out. It probably it helps that you spoke that, because I know based on what I've seen in the last week, there's a lot of conversation about that out there, and just know that there's a process. And I trust the process, and we'll just let the process work. Is what I ask you to do. So, all right, we'll move along. Gentlemen, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. For your consideration, you have the approval of the January 24, 2023 regular meeting minutes and approval of the resolution 01-2023, and it's amending the classification and compensation plan for Upson County. Is there a motion on the consent?
So moved. Second.
A motion made by Commissioner Watson, seconded by Commissioner Jones. No discussion, so Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. Well, Joe, as Jason, our county manager, just pointed out, we can tell that the year has gone by quick when we see you come in here. It's for your annual thing. I'm not saying I'm not looking forward to it. I'm just saying, man, that year went by quick, didn't it? So next on our agenda is a presentation from the Upson Historical Society. So Joe, if you just want to come up front there.
Yes, another year has gone by.
Yes.
I'm Joe Gazafi. I'm with the Upson Historical Society. Every year, the Upson Historical Society donates $6,000 per year for the Thomaston Upson Archives operation. Since 1996, when the archives were created by Upson County, the City of Thomaston, and the Thomaston Upson Board of Education as a community resource of local history. The Upson Historical Society presents programs on many local history subjects and projects. We got quite a few going on now regarding World War II. I just threw that in. Many visitors to Upson County visit the archives for information. A lot of people come back here looking for relatives, and we help them any way we can. We want to invite anybody with an interest in Upson County to join the Historical Society and participate in our activities. I can't talk for 5 minutes, so that's all I've got.
Well, you get more than 5.
Sir,
You actually get more than 5, so,
it's more than 5, well, I had something written down.
okay. Well, it's time for a Kodak moment, if anybody remembers what Kodak is. Come on.
All
$6,000, I think we all stand. Y'all want to stand back there, or?
No, I'm gonna.
Getting out of the photo.
It makes me taller back here.
This is Ashley, she is our citizen engagement coordinator.
Well, I've got it right up, I can give you, it's got to be.
There you go.
Okay.
He did your work for you. All right. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you. You got everybody in?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right.
You get to keep that.
See what I'm gonna do with it.
Yeah, first time ever, I'm taller than normal.
It's like Joe said, Historical Society's got a lot going on right now between Pedigree White Stamp House and what else, Joe? Pedigree White Stamp House, and you're over at the archives. You guys are getting ready to do this stuff with World War II.
There's so much going on.
I know. That's the big one you've been talking about here lately. So you know, there you go, and you know, encourage everybody to support by going to their programs, which are awesome. And we can't let it slip our minds that we've got a big birthday coming up here very soon, and we got to get to work on it. So anyway, we go from there. Okay. New business. Next on the agenda is discussion with the tax commissioner on tax relief forms. So with that,
I would like, if it would please the board and everybody in here, I'd like to be moved to the end of the presentation because I have quite a lengthy presentation. And this being Valentine's Day, they might have places to go. What I have probably will take about 45 minutes or an hour.
you got a lot of people necking. I'm assuming y'all want us to move it to the back. Okay. All right. So gentlemen, I have a request to move item E to below item I. Is there a motion to amend the agenda? That was
Second.
second. So I have a motion to amend the agenda as moving item E to item I. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is discussion with the tax attorney. Ms. Broder's here tonight.
District.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the tax attorney. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ms. Jones, thank you for having me and thank you for placing me on the agenda. I will be brief because it is Valentine's Day and thank you for that. I am only here because of a question that was posed at last month's meeting. It was never my intention to speak publicly about what had gone down or happened. It was always my intention to ride off in the proverbial sunset, so to speak. However, a question was posed, Commissioner Jones, I believe by you, at last month's meeting, asking if the reason that the district attorney's office was removed from probate court had to do with performance. I believe your question was did this have anything to do with court performance? The answer to you, Commissioner, was that in part, that's part of it, was the answer, but there was also a conflict. Once that was presented to the board and to the public through the streaming, I had no choice but to come before you and defend my people that had worked in that office tirelessly for hours. All of those are attorneys that do this job because they love this county and they love what they do. It is certainly not for the money. And any allegation of poor performance against those people right there, I will not stand for. It had nothing to do with performance. What it had to do with is there was an incident that occurred in city court. That incident was recorded in writing by one of my assistants because frankly he was bothered by it. He brought it to me. There has been some indication that I, in a knee-jerk reaction, contacted the JQC. I can assure the board that is not farther from the truth. I talked with my senior staff members. I spoke with the chief judge of this circuit. I spoke with the prosecuting attorney's council. I spoke with all these entities just to frankly see what I should do. At that point, the consensus was that I should contact the JQC instead of doing any type of investigation on my own. Ethically, I was told by all entities, and I believed that was the right thing to do. And that is what I did. I understand that that has been closed and a letter of instruction issued. I have not seen it, so I cannot speak on it. I do want to let the board know that I have 4 counties, as you are well aware. The district attorney's office practices in probate courts, city courts, magistrate courts, superior courts, juvenile courts, the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court of the United States of Georgia. We actively practice in all of these courts. Across the courts, there are times when, as the district attorney's office, we have to challenge a judge by motion, by a request to recuse, by calling the JQC. It is simply part of the job. It is also probably why I'm not the most popular person in the circuit. But that's okay. I do not intend to speak on this matter anymore. We are out of the court, and that is fine. But I could not let an allegation of poor performance stand when I have people that work in my office who do not deserve to hear anything but thank you for the job that they do. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
It says discussion. Anybody have any questions?
No, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's all the business I have with the board. May we be excused?
Absolutely.
Thank
You don't want to stick around and talk about some other things?
I'm okay.
What? The rest is free.
Thank y'all.
Always 2 sides to every story.
Okay, gentlemen, next on the agenda is the discussion and the consideration of purchases of vehicles for the sheriff's department. Jason, you want to pose, or Alan, you want to?
Mr. Chairman, our CFO worked with the sheriff to put this information together, so I'd certainly be comfortable with Mr. Salter presenting if that would please the board.
Yes. You want to just summarize?
Yes, sir. Basically, in summary, the sheriff's orders, he tries to rotate 5 vehicles out and purchase 5 new police cruisers a year. He has done this for, I'm not quite certain for how many years, but been purchasing these vehicles with SPLOST funds in prior years. We have available monies in the 2016 SPLOST to enable him to order vehicles or police cruisers this year. When the vehicles will be delivered, not certain. The way things are with Ford right now, the actual literal order window is not even open yet. So this is kind of getting them pre-ordered. And so they may be delivered before the end of the year, they may not be. So the price tag for each of the vehicles, and we did, the sheriff actually obtained the quotes himself. He obtained 2 quotes, one from Wade Ford, one from Brandon Ford. He's done business with Brandon Ford in the past. They are a large wholesale dealer, but as far as I know, they don't always or can meet state contract pricing. Wade Ford can, and in fact, Wade Ford is has the state contract for the police interceptors that the sheriff is willing to order. So the per unit price for the police interceptors for Wade Ford is $41,273, and at a total cost of $206,363 for the vehicle. Further below, I kind of add in the additional equipment and stickers, and I show it to you first in a total and then a per unit cost. The equipment that he's purchasing, he obtained quotes through a company that he does business with and has been doing business with quite some time to outfit the vehicles with lights, radios, and everything. So the total all-in request for funds is $267,000. So we're recommending to the board that the board approve the purchase of these vehicles, or at least the order of these vehicles and ultimate purchase whenever they do arrive. It will take some time, of course, to get the equipment and stickers put on, but we wanted to make sure all this was included in the upfront request before anything was done.
Okay. Thank you, Alan.
You're welcome.
Okay, so gentlemen, you have staff recommendation for the purchase of 5 units for the Sheriff's Department for a total of vehicles and outfitting new vehicles for a total of $267,001. You forgot to mention the $1. $267,001 to be paid for from the 2016 splosh. Is there a motion on the staff's recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Yes. All right, so these 5 new cars, is he gonna turn 5 in?
I had a discussion with Sheriff Kilgore yesterday about surplusing vehicles, and he assures me, he gave me his word that as these vehicles, as he gets vehicles, he will turn vehicles in. And I know that the reason you asked that is because sometimes there's a lag, get them, and staff works to get those vehicles and get them identified as a surplus vehicle so that we don't end up with a huge depository of junk vehicles like we had years ago. So we're getting them in and getting them out. Now, I will tell you, there's been some issues with some of the vehicles, as we've had some insurance claims due to vehicles being wrecked, while, it's kind of goes with the territory when you're out there doing what they do. So anyway, so yes. Long answer. Short answer is yes.
Long as his junkyard don't continue to grow.
Yes, sir. Any other discussion?
Alan has a question.
Just a point of clarification, the vehicles just received, ordered last year,
Yes.
we have not received any surplus vehicles, so this is.
You will.
Okay.
I have it on good assurances you will. All right. So I have a motion made and seconded authorizing the expenditure of $267,001 of 2016 splosh money for the purchase of these 5 vehicles for the Sheriff's Office. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. Discussion and consideration for a contract for lawn care on county parks.
So, Mr. Chairman, as you may remember from budget discussions last year, we've looked at several different options throughout the organization to try to mitigate the problems we're having with staffing, and this is one of those items that we included in the recreation budget under the unincorporated county parks budget. So essentially, our recreation director reached out to our procurement folks. They went through a procurement process to try to establish a competitive bid process for lawn maintenance of the following parks: Thurston, Eddie Collier, Logtown, Salem, and Lincoln Park. So what you see in front of you are the results of that procurement. After a review, staff is recommending the selection of Kendall Lawn Care at the cost of $5,652 per month. And with the board's authorization, that would enable us to enter into the attached contract with them to provide that service at that amount.
Was there only 2 bidders for this?
If it would please the chair and the board, I would let our CFO answer that question.
So there were only two. We listed this on the Georgia Procurement Registry, and some of the Kendall came by way of inquiry to us about, possibly picking up that work. So Ivor really was the only one that I'm aware of that may have picked it up from the Georgia Procurement Registry. We ran it in the local organ as well a couple of times. This is all we received. And so the total contract value now is $57,360. And the way we got him to refine how he breaks that down, and that is on the second page. So it's essentially $7,095 a month for the months of March through October. And the rest of the months, like from December through February, there's kind of $600 built in there to do anything like leaf blowing, et cetera. So the contract will state that, and it'll be for a total amount of $57,360.
So the total amount is $57,360.
Correct. And that's to do all 5 parks. 8 months of mowing every other week. Mowing, trimming, edging, blowing. So basically, twice a month or more, if we have more than 4 weeks.
And was this, I saw in here, it was a budgeted item, obviously it wasn't a budget to contract it out, but they had, I guess, dollars in their budget for.
We did, we
This
had
type of work.
put in a guesstimate of about, I think we put in about 45,000, but there is sufficient money in the community parks budget to cover this, so there's not an ask for additional, or a budget amendment or anything. So we have the situation where we've received comments last year from citizens about the parks and some of you all about the grass. We just don't have the manpower to maintain it. Commissioner Wilder mowed the lawn at Salem once or twice. This is a pretty good amount. If you look at this and just take it and divide it by 12, you're talking $956 a month to do all parks. It's a lot of turf.
What'd you break it down at?
But if you look at the last sentence, the total cost for Kendall services equates to $956 per month for all parks over a 12-month period.
956 times 12 comes out to $57,000.
Well, $956 per park.
Per park.
Yeah.
It says for all parks.
I'm sorry, but the total amount is 50. I don't think you're gonna, we either try to find more staff we can't find, or, I mean, this is what we're doing. So, I don't know what else to really recommend. I mean, I'm doing this on behalf of, obviously, the Recreation Department Superintendent, but,
Jason, you have anything you want to add?
So just to clarify, I did some quick, so that analysis that you did, Alan, must have been per occurrence, right? Per park, per occurrence? Yeah.
probably so.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
the
how
way.
it breaks down? Just worded in?
I think that's what the chairman was
So
getting.
$956 a mow?
Correct.
2 mows a month?
Per service, per park.
So you're
The total cost is actually less than 1 FTE with benefits.
So what's the,
Now, keep in mind, this is not a joint project, so,
No.
this is strictly unincorporated revenue, you know.
So this, I mean, he provides all the equipment and everything, so.
local?
Yes. Commissioner Wilder's familiar with this gentleman?
Yeah, he's going, we lived down in a long time area with.
But we budgeted 45,000, and this is coming in at 12,000, almost $13,000 more than what we had put in the budget. I mean,
That's
Jason, your point,
approximation. I don't have exact amount.
yeah, Jason, your point is well taken. It's just, I personally have a little sticker shock on it when you start thinking about it, but.
What are the people that are cutting the grass now gonna do?
Currently, we don't have the staff to do it.
Well, somebody's cutting it.
We're not doing it nearly as often as we should.
Well, see, last year we had to hire some additional folks to come in and cut it, including
We did.
unhired help.
We basically did them as one-offs just to try to get through the
We didn't have
year.
anyone to care for the parks.
I'm a little concerned that we only got 2 bids. I mean, I know you did your part, you put it on Georgia procurement, and you put it in the paper.
I think if I had total acreage, it might seem a lot more reasonable to you if you think about
Well, I know.
the size of all these parks. And you look at Mr. Ivory's quote, I don't know, we can run it again.
Okay. All right. Well, so staff's recommendation is to approve, to authorize entering into a contract with Kendall Lawn Care for $57,360 for mowing the 5 county parks for 2023. Good way to sum it up.
We're gonna get the rest of it. We got so much budgeted, so.
Said it's within the budget, I mean, within the overall budget.
Alan's comment was that we won't have an amendment required, so.
Okay. So gentlemen, you have staff's recommendation. Is there a motion on staff's recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, I offer a motion that we go with the staff recommendation of $57,366.90.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to authorize entering into a contract with Kendall Lawn Care for the mowing of these parks for $56,360. That's what I had. Any further discussion? Anybody other than me? I'm just going to say it. I get it. I mean, I understand Jason's point is very valid when you look at the cost of one full-time employee plus equipment, care and maintenance of the equipment, fuel. You know, it sounds like a lot. It is a lot, but there's a lot of grass to mow. I would have just liked to have seen more bids. So, any other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
No. Okay. Next item is discussion and consideration of surplus vehicles. What did I do with that sheet? We have, I just had it. Here we go. So you have before you these 4 vehicles that are ready to be surplused. Have y'all seen the list? If you haven't, I've got it right here. There's one vehicle from the Extension Office, 2012 Ford F-150 Crew Cab. It is a 2012. And then you have from the Recreation Department, one F-350. One F-150, 2011, a 2000 F-350, a 2011 F-150, and another 2000 F-150. It appears they all meet the criteria that we established for surplusing vehicles and replacing vehicles. The vehicles at the Rec Department have been replaced. They were delivered in January of '23. So staff recommendation is to recommend surplusing these vehicles, which are currently stored at the road department. So is there a motion on the staff recommendation for surplusing these vehicles?
Motion, go ahead.
I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to authorize surplusing these vehicles that were outlined as presented. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Okay. Well, we're back to item E then. Next on the agenda is discussion with the tax commissioner on tax relief forms. So, so gentlemen, if I could, I'm gonna explain why we're probably at this point. Get these forms routinely from the tax commissioner, tax assessor's office. And the concern that I had is on the bottom of the form where it says county government authority. Where it says county government authority, there are two options on this form. It says granted and denied. And the title of the form is tax relief application. I've been signing these things for a long time, and at one point, a couple of years ago, I'd asked Mr. Pascal English to look into this, and then it kind of got sidetracked, and so up until recently, you know, so my concern is I'm signing these forms. I don't have the authority. I've never been given the authority by this board to sign these on your behalf. And then it says granted or denied. So I asked Mr. English, Mr. English to look into it again, and I think that's what's prompted this discussion a little further. So those are my concerns. Granted, denied, and I don't have the authority. So we'll see where this goes.
Pass that around.
You need to pass it around, Chairman Allen.
Y'all will have to forgive me for my throat. I got a sinus ear issue, but I'll do the best I can. As the chairman was saying, and I've got some packets here. This might take a while, so y'all bear with me. This is something I hope we get resolved tonight, one way or the other. I want you to read the email. This is what prompted me to request to be put on the agenda. It's basically an email saying exactly what Chairman Allen just said, being concerned about the language on the tax form. Give you a few seconds to read over it. If you'll flip up to the next page, this is the actual tax relief application. Let me give you a little history about what occurs with this. This form has been around since the days of Charles Gordon, if you remember him. Okay. There's never been an issue with it, and what it's used for is to relieve taxes that's brought down on ACOs that's brought down from the tax assessor's office. An ACO form is an adjustment, correction, errors, whatever that they catch in the value of property or taxes or something like that. If you appeal property and your property value is lower, it's adjusted on this form. If you create an NOD bill, which means not on digest, for utility companies or additional tax bill, you know, whatever the case may be, this form is filled out, but it's filled out based on information given to us from the tax assessor's office, okay? that's pretty much the history of it. We use it to create bills. Once myself or my deputy tax commissioner fills this form out, we load this bill into the system, into our property tax software. We load this adjustment into the property tax software. I bring it over for the chairman, whoever, the governing authority, whoever wants to sign it, but it's always been the chairman. You'll see later on it's been the chairman and past administrations that signed off on it. We bring it over for them to sign. We already have the info in the system, but we cannot do anything with that info that's in the system and post it to accounting until that form is signed off on and given back to me. I take it to my bookkeeper and she posts it for us to do an accounting, and then it's a complete deal. Okay? That's pretty much how that works. We really didn't have a problem with this being signed until 2020, but we'll get into that later on. But looking at the form, like the chairman said, you know, the word granted down there, that's always been on the form, okay? And of course, you know, I put a date, you know, this is just one I pulled out of the file from 2017. This has been going since 2017 with this current board, okay? Third page, it's a copy of the note, and I have the original note right here. It's a copy of the note that was written by the chairman and stuck on some of these tax relief forms, some of the first tax relief forms that I brought over in 2017. And of course, you can see it says lots of missing signatures, okay? Probably what I should have done is handed them to them in person. I just stuck them in the box or whatever. Well, I come back over a few days later to pick my forms up because these have to be handled in a timely manner. And this note is on my stack of relief forms, lots of missing signatures. I didn't realize it till I got back to the office, you know, because I had other stuff to pick up. So I have to come back over here, stick them back in the chairman's box, or give them to the chairman. I don't know, but anyway, at some point I explained to him that this is a process, how it works, and that it has to be done this way, okay? It just kind of bothered me, you know, that instead of sticking a note on this form, what's wrong with picking up the phone and say, hey, you know, what's going on? And yeah, I saved it, you know, and you might ask, why did I save it? Why did I save that note all this time? I felt I saved, you know, I felt pretty much what I feel now, that this is unnecessary, okay? Maybe micromanagement going on. I don't know, that's what I feel. And yeah, I saved that note because it just occurred to me that, you know, this might be needed one day. I just want to make that point about that. This is one done from the previous administration, whatever you want to call it, previous board from Rusty Blacksmith. I talked with two other tax commissioners prior to me about this form, and they brought it over to the board for the chairman to sign off on. I just wanted you guys to see that the previous chairman signed off on these and didn't have a problem, okay? Any questions or concerns so far?
Yeah, I have a question just for knowledge. What happens if it's denied?
There's really, I tell you what, later on in my presentation, I do address that in another email that was sent over. I explained a lot. What y'all are hearing tonight, believe it or not, I've sent an explanation to every one of you 2 or 3 years ago because this came up in 2020, okay? To briefly answer your question, you know, what happens if something's denied? It would be denied by the Board of Assessors, okay? Not really denied by you guys. You can contest it if you wanted to, I imagine. I don't know. That's not in my scope. That's not in my realm. That's up to y'all, okay? But there are denials of appeals. Well, if an appeal is denied, it don't get on this form. It don't get on an ACO, it's just denied. It can be denied by the Board of Assessors, it can be denied by the Board of Equalization. Any other questions or concerns about that form?
Well, I mean, I do. I mean, so if it can't be denied and it's not being really granted, then why is it?
You know, forgive me for not explaining that part. This form was used by the tax assessors originally, years and years ago when they developed it. The previous tax assessor, not Charles, but Pat Fallon before Charles, she drew up the form ACO. And you'll see that later on. It's the form they give me or give my office to create this bill. We still use this form to create this bill, okay? Now there again, the denied part, it's on there, it's always been on there. There could be something you guys can test, I don't know, and you might want to deny it. And I'll give you an example of something that you did in 2017. It wasn't a denial, but it was an approval, okay? But hopefully we'll get to that and answer the question or answer the concern. Any other questions about that form? Are you getting one of these? I think it should be enough for everybody.
Are you seeing this one? You get copies of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, just a question to council is, I mean, do you see any issue with the board? Is there any legal issue with signing this? Or granting or denying?
Yeah, because what I did, and this was brought to my attention a couple of weeks ago. So I had not, to my knowledge, seen this form before. So I wanted to look at it to make sure we were doing what we were supposed to do. The first thing is, I think it's important that the board receive documentation like this as far as letting us know, Mr. Tinsley know, and Mr. Salter know, that there's adjustments potentially to the tax digest. So I think that's very important that we get that and useful. But based on what I found, and I sent out an email to this effect, there's two code sections. 48-5-311 and 48-5-380 that in my research I felt was controlling in this situation. So you got that, you got our ordinances, and I also conferred with ACCG just because we've got the tax commissioner and the board. Not necessarily, I'm not going to say at odds, but it's a situation that affects both. So I wanted to make sure that I bounce this off ACCG as well. But essentially, it boils down to the Board of Commissioners should not be approving or denying anything that comes through unless it's an actual refund to a taxpayer. So in essence, if we're cutting a check to a taxpayer for a refund, that's when this board steps in and approves that, because of course it's dealing with our, the money of the county. So the approval and denial, maybe when they first started it, may have been a great idea by Mr. Gordy or whoever came up with this form. I personally think it should just say received, by the board would be a great way to do it. And I think that kind of handles what, on the tax side of it, what they need, that it's been presented, received, and then on our end, we get the form and get the information. So, that would be my recommendation.
Well, I get to, and later on in my presentation, I cover all that. I cover why I think it should stay on the form, and it has to do with refunds in other code sections. But I hear what you're saying. Okay.
And if I could, just to, you make a very good point. I mean, this is useful information that comes across, but just so y'all know, oftentimes these come in stacks like this. There may be days where there's one or two, right after the BOE and all that process goes on, there are a lot of these things that come over. And so my concern is, like you said, not impeding the process. Imagine if we have to wait till every Board of Commission meeting to review these things individually to sign them. That adds
Yeah, you can't
weeks.
do that. I mean, you can, but it holds up my process.
And I don't want to do that. That's what I'm saying.
But,
It sounds like there's a.
I go back to my point, this system's been working for 40 years, okay? And I understand your concerns, but now hopefully later on in this presentation, it'll cover what we're talking about. The second package is probably the most difficult to follow. But this occurred in 2020. It's an exchange of emails where the chairman first addressed these forms and the concerns. You can read that whole email. I'll summarize it for you, whatever you want to do, but you can see where I've kind of circled what I feel are some of the important points. This is a response from Chairman Allen to my email that I had sent earlier from an email he had sent to me, okay? So I simply requested the county manager and county attorney, this is an email that he sent to me asking English law firm and the county manager to look into these forms. I simply requested the county manager and county attorney to look at the form that I was signing where I was granting the relief to determine if there was a legal or liability issue. I'm not authorized to sign anything without prior approval or delegation of that authority by the Board of Commissioners. Got a question mark down by another paragraph. Jason has informed me that you and he have discussed a method where you might be able to provide this information in a format for the entire board rather than sending these forms over that the rest of the board doesn't typically see. I think that's a great idea. He goes on to say, in order to keep the process moving and to prevent any holdups, I will simply strike the word granted and acknowledge receipt of the form in the information. All right. This was a tax relief form. This was about a tax relief form from a company called Cater Parrott that's with the railroad. This form got brought over here and it got held up for several days. I didn't get it back. And it's because it was being checked out by the county attorney. Therefore, it impeded my process of performing my duties. This next page was an attachment in that email to me from Chairman Allen. This was an email sent to the county manager and Pascal and Heath English, county attorneys. Part of that attachment in that email that I just read off said I had asked the tax commissioner to sign off on the forms. I think he was thinking I ought to sign off on them. And he didn't understand at that time that the deputy tax commissioner, Angela Raines, has the same powers I do. She's sworn in just like I'm sworn in. Okay, so, and another reason I think one of the concerns was that she was filling these forms out, and it might be thought that I should fill them out. Well, you'll see later on the form I filled out versus what she filled out, you can understand her handwriting a whole lot better than mine. And when you write numbers, you know, that means a lot. Questioning, and you know, let's don't beat around the bush here. This was sent in October of 2020, and we know what was going on in October 2020. There was a lawsuit between myself and the chairman and the board for the unsuppressing my public info. That's what was going on. I took this email, I took this attachment as a personal a shot at maybe micromanaging what was going on in my office, trying to find something wrong going on in my office. Number 3 is highlighted. Is it necessary that the tax commissioner actually sign off on these, or can he delegate to his staff? And if so, has he done so in writing? Do you remember checking into that? This was sent to English law firm.
Yeah, I can't say that I did or not.
So that was a concern that was sent to your law firm about this form over 2 years ago, okay? Let me move on to that, to the next one. I simply need some assurance that we're in compliance with any laws or regulations to concern. At a minimum, we probably need a resolution from our commissioners authorizing me to sign off on these. Okay. The resolution idea was brought up in 2020. So, to me...
Talking about when I asked that question, that's when you say it was brought up.
Right. It was brought up in October of 2020, a resolution. If it was that concerned, if it was that big of a concern, maybe y'all should have got together and put a resolution in place then. Jason, the resolution that y'all put in place in 2019 that puts a floor on the general tax fund. You know what I'm talking about? That it can be spent, that it can't go below a certain floor. Was that not a resolution, a certain amount?
Our financial policy.
No, I'm just asking
Yeah.
permission to respond.
Sure.
Yes, yeah.
That was a resolution?
Yes.
Okay. How long did it take to draw up and pass that resolution?
I don't remember.
Was it 2 years? Less than a year, a few months, a few weeks?
I imagine I think you came to a work session and presented the idea, and then I think when everyone sort of thought that that would be a good process, and maybe a couple months, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So my point is, it was a concern and there was the idea of passing a resolution back in 2020. It could have been acted on then.
Well, can I ask you a question? Did you respond to Jason or to anybody and say, I concur, I agree, that's a good thing to do?
I don't know if I did or not. I know we had a discussion after this email. You know, I had a discussion with somebody in the county about y'all do whatever you want to do. But again, that's not my realm, what y'all do. As far as granting authority, that's not my realm, okay? But the point is that this idea of doing a resolution to sign off on these forms, giving the chairman, maybe give the county manager, I'm sure, I mean, Jason approached me 2 or 3 weeks ago and said maybe he could sign off on them. You know, to me, I just want to get the job done. I just want to get the job done and get it done easily and efficient as possible.
And the only thing I'll add to that, I want to do the same thing. I just want to make sure it's being done the right way. And I don't mean you take any offense by that. I mean, I think it's being done the right way. And just because something's been done for a decade or whatever, doesn't mean that at times it needs to be looked at. Again, it boils down to, you know, like you've done a really great job of presenting my concerns. You know, what am I signing when I say granted? What am I signing when I say denied?
I'm getting to, I understand it.
And you know, and what law, what code section, be it statutory, administrative, or whatever, that says we have to do it this way. Because again, to Mr. English's point, there's some really good information that comes across the desk, but it's never shared with anybody on this board. You know, a lot of times, you know, especially when BOE reports out, and there's hundreds of these things coming over. So, you know, that's really the gist of the matter.
Well, there's other, you know, I'm going to show you something here in a few minutes that addresses part of that. This was also part of the attachment. You know, I got highlighted up there. This was the Katy Parrott tax relief application. I was actually looking for a certain tax relief application that seemed to have got lost in the shuffle, and this, the one that I was looking for, the account, was 17056. And that was, you know, somewhere lost in the shuffle when all this was going on for the county attorney, to look into. One thing that's catching my eye that I think needs to be pointed out again is that this ACO, this is an ACO from the tax assessor's office. This is them saying, Andy, Angela, fill out a tax relief application and create whatever we need to be created, whether it's not on digest bill, relieve taxes, relieve the value, reduce the value, whatever. That's what that is. This information goes on these tax relief forms, okay? Always has. We never had a legal problem with this form in the past. And like I said, I understand that. Something I want you to notice on this Cater Parrot, there's some check marks and a P at the bottom. On the side, there's 3 check marks and a P. That's my deputy tax commissioner's way of making sure that these things are handled in the right way. We create the bill, bring it over, put it in the system, bring it over. That P stands for posted. I cannot post, my bookkeeper cannot post this in our software system until it's signed off on and returned to me. And the big thing about that, we have to be right on our numbers for the auditor, okay? Now, go over to, on the very first page, my email starts with the word gentleman, and I flipped it over. I tried to put it in the right type of order. But this is the email that I sent you guys.
Do you have that in your package? I see gentlemen.
Right. Flip over to about the 5th page. This is the beginning. That gentleman, this is the continuation of it. Flip over to about the 5th page. This is the email that I sent to every one of y'all, explaining the process, November 17th, 2020. And there again, you can read that if you want a few minutes to read it, but in that email, I explained the whole process step by step of how it goes down. I don't know, I don't expect y'all to remember it, but the gist of it was to tell you why this form is used like it is. And I want to read out some highlights here. Again, it's some thoughts that I've had about holding on to these tax relief forms, not giving back to me in a timely manner. The part that I want you to understand is that I had a serious issue with is the fact that our tax relief forms that we have to get back in a timely manner so my bookkeeper can record them. They were being held up with what I felt was unnecessary scrutinizing. That's what I felt then, and I kind of feel that way now. I took the relief form over to be signed by the chairman and haven't seen it since. It's not in his box, not in my box, and this is the problem. We were closing out our tax year for the county auditor, and that was November 20th. That's back when we closed out in November. We close out now at the end of the year, but we were closing out in November. If my bookkeeper doesn't have the tax relief form, then it doesn't get recorded and we're off on our relief amounts, which means I'm off on my audit. I don't like getting off on my audit. I like to have everything together. So, to me, that unnecessary scrutinizing was hindering my ability to perform my duties as tax commissioner. The next page is just the missing relief form. This is the bill that was relieved from Cater Parrot. This was the actual tax relief. The bill created from the tax relief form that was missing, okay? And then you go to the next email. This is my email response from the email that he had responded to earlier. I know this is kind of getting twisted, but I put it in the best order I can. This was, me just addressing the situation. If you look back at the second page at some point, somewhere in those emails, he said that I had a discussion with Jason. I had no discussion with Jason about a method or anything to do anything like that. I did not have that discussion. Also, I highlighted lastly referring to your email to Jason and the county attorneys where you stated you questioned the process when you assumed office. Let's go back on that. I do remember coming over, and it goes back to these missing signatures. That I guess what I'm saying there is I acknowledged the concern and I addressed it. I acknowledged concern in 2020 with these emails and I addressed it. I want this board to know that this form that we've been using for 40 years is just good and fine with the Department of Revenue auditors. I ran that by him. I sent it to him back in 2020 when this was brought up. I said, Danny, is this okay? Yeah, it's okay. To me, when the Department of Revenue auditors say it's good, that's good with me. And I kind of expect the same thing. You know, if I tell somebody it's good, it's good. You know, it's kind of like plowing the same ground twice. The next, in that email, he said that he was gonna quit checking the box granted and just strike through it and put acknowledged. I'm cool with that. I have no problem with that. And that's what the last 2 pages show, is that about that time, he was, right before this concern in 2020, he was saying, okay, granted. And then after that, later on in November, when this concern, he goes through acknowledge. So we're good with that, you know. But here we are in 2023, almost 3 years, well, yeah, a little over 2 years later, and all of a sudden it's concerned again. That's what was kind of puzzling to me.
Well, let me answer that.
Okay.
The reason in 2023 it came up again is it was a unique year. I mean, because of the digest sales ratio, and you got to forgive me. I'm certainly not the expert on sales ratios and effects of digest. I mean, I got a pretty good understanding of it though. A bunch of them came over that were for the utilities, and I had a question about why some utilities were reduced to the 37 point whatever it was, and some were zero. So I went to Alan. I said, Alan, could you ask? Can you find out about this? So I went to staff. I said, could you just find out what the difference is? And I never really got an answer back from Alan. I think Alan, I don't want to put words in your mouth, and we don't even need to go there. It was, but the reason it's being addressed in 2023 is there are questions, and there has been no method that, again, this goes to granting and denying stuff, acknowledging stuff. I go to staff and ask them to ask questions because I'm not coming to you and ask that question. I'm asking them to find out the answer and just let me know. And I basically just got told to, Chairman, just sign the form and send it back. That's what I was told. That's why we're having this conversation in 2023.
And the first thing, let me say this, later on in these handouts, I address exactly what you're talking about, okay? This number 3, this is where this refund and authorized refund comes into play. This was done in 2017, early in 2017, March. No, yeah, it started in March. This particular person deeded some property to his son. And the acreage did not get recorded right in the tax assessor's office. The acreage didn't get taken off the original parcel. Another parcel was created. This guy called me and was asking about it. I said, well, you need to call, you need to get in touch with the tax assessor. If they made a mistake, you know, they can fix it. And that's what they did. And you see in this brochure, I mean, in this handout, that he sent a letter his concern was addressed with Pat Fallon. Pat Fallon sent a letter to Jim Wheelis, the county manager at that time, saying that this man explained what had happened. This goes all the way back. If you look at that last page, his property was being assessed all the way back to the year 2000 with too much acreage on it, okay? So, Miss Pat brings that up to you guys, to the board. I think a couple of you might not have been here. She addresses it to the board, addresses it to the county attorneys, and y'all drew up that letter that it's okay to refund it to them.
There was, I thought, if I remember correctly, because I think we've only done one since I've been here, that it was actually voted on in a meeting that directed, that allowed for that. So,
right. My point is that this board, if you can grant the authority to refund, to give this person their money back, you certainly can have the authority to grant these tax reliefs. Okay? That's my point. You have the idea of a resolution to give that authority. You know, that's whatever you want to do, but I guess that handout is about that you guys do have that authority. You voted on it.
on tax relief, refunding money. I think the statute requires that we vote on it. That's the difference. The statute requires that we voted on it. For these things, there's no statutes that I'm hearing that says this board grants or denies these tax relief applications.
Right.
And that's all I'm asking to be clarified.
That's accurate, and that, you know, again, following up with ACCG, you know, they do this for the whole state. They specifically said, this board, the Board of Commissioners, should not get involved unless it's a refund, which corroborated what I'd already found in the statute to be what I consider the law. So,
well, we're going to get into another. This is an example of exactly what we should have done.
And that was done, I believe.
Quick question. So the one that was marked out and it said acknowledge, that was able to go through the process still with that being done?
Because it's a local form. I mean, but.
So can we not still do that?
Yeah.
We can continue.
And that's all. And that's. I mean,
that's what I'm.
We've sit here for
exactly. That's what I'm trying
this
to get
long, and I'm telling you guys, and I have told you guys, I don't have the authority to do this, to sign these. You're not seeing them. You're not seeing all this. And as our attorney has said, there's a lot of good information on there. So ever how this board wants to handle it, whether we delegate it down to Jason, which I wouldn't necessarily want to do that, because I'm telling you, you get hundreds of these things, and you're going through, and quite frankly, it's monotonous. But you know, I do look at every one of them because but I don't have the authority. You have not given me the authority. And then when I'm saying, and when we say to the attorney, if I check granted, as been done for apparently 40 years, what am I granting? Does it have any kind of legal standing? Could anybody's, and that's all that's been ever asked. So I mean, I'd really like to wrap this up. I mean, how do we as a board and you? I mean, nobody wants to hold up the process. And why can't you just change the form that it says reviewed, and when you get these things, I'll look at them. If the board, because I'm not granting anything, I'm just reviewing them, I don't have a problem doing that. But if it says granted or denied, that's where I need the board by resolution to give me the authority to grant or deny. If you just change the form, then,
Mr. Chairman,
why?
I recommend changing it to received.
It's not our form, it's his form. So
Right.
that's,
Well-
you're hearing it from the county attorney. Can you change it to receipt?
Can I get through and address, with my presentation, address some of those concerns?
Sure.
This is about. All right, so the utilities that you brought up, this is them.
For 23?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is them. Copy of a note, I brought over a stack of utility bills. What happens with utilities, the state of Georgia assesses utilities. Our local assessor's office don't assess them, okay? The state assesses them, they send them down to us, usually after the digest, our property tax digest has been approved. That's usually the deal with it. This is my way, this note is my way of communicating with the chairman because, you know, let's be truthful here, our communication ain't have been too good lately. So this is my way of saying, okay, these utility bills had to be revised because the sales ratio was below standard. What had happened, tax assessors sent down the utility bills assessment given to them by the state, but they sent it down with a 40% sales ratio. Now, y'all know what happened to the sales ratio for 2022.
Yep.
We were out of whack. If it's below 38, we cannot assess their property at 40%. They cannot be billed at 40%. We have to go with the sales ratio of 37. So the tax assessors unknowingly sent us down all the utility bills with a 40% sales ratio. Well, we had to go back and recreate all those bills at 37.14. That's what happened on these. And again, we fill out this tax relief form to do that because what we're doing in some of those cases, that 40% made them pay too much money, so we're backing it out. We're backing that value out, okay? Or we're just doing away with bills altogether. With utility bills, when they have, they're kind of unique, they can have an extra assessment to them, and we have to create what we call an NOD, not on digest bill for them, if they're at 40%, okay? They weren't. So we had a bill that we had created, an NOD bill we had created for the extra assessment at 40%, we had to back out, okay? Based on the information given to us from the tax assessors. There again, you know, this is something that you guys need to know, but it's also something you have to sign off on. And you're saying, basically what you're saying is, okay, you know, we get it, this is what happened, here you go, sign off on it, and all. That's, you know, that's what was done in that case. That was, the last page was the actual bill. We had to end up backing that whole bill out. It's just our way, it's our bookkeeping way of making sure that we've done it step by step. And when you sign off on these, you're saying, okay, that's good, you know, we're good with it. You're signing off, taking that bill off the digest, is what I'm saying. Off
Is that
y'all's
required?
property
That's
tax
required,
revenue.
and that's required by statute that we?
That's required for somebody to sign off on.
Okay.
Okay,
I think-
you can check with the department. I tell you what you need to do, Pete, probably instead of checking with ACCG, check with the Department of Revenue. They have a good legal department.
If I could ask a question, because,
Yeah.
all right, so when this stack came over, and this is what posed the question, and this is why we're talking about it in 2023, and we've been talking about it for 5 years, is there were some, I mean, because if you guys look, you'll see revised liability is 0. Now I understand why it's 0. There were some in this mix that the revised liability was not 0, it was not down.
Yes, right.
So my question to my financial officer back in there, can you find out why some are 0 and why some, the revised liability isn't 0? Well, now I understand, thank you.
Yeah.
But he couldn't answer the question for me. I was just
Well,
told,
you know, I understand.
I was just told sign the forms.
I understand,
And
well.
I usually do what my CFO tells me to.
Well, you know, Chairman, back in 2020, I addressed all that in the email, you know? But we'll move on. You know, I do understand your concern with all that coming over. There's so much that was going on. Some of them got zeroed out, some of them got reduced, you know, and, you know, I get that, but the point is they have to be signed off on, okay? And I'm getting somewhere with this, just bear with me. Any other questions on that handout? This is refunds. This is where, now what we're talking about here, I think our main concern here is with this whole thing, this whole form, is liability, legal liability, okay? This right here is my concern with legal liability, and it has to do with refunds. This has to do with the utility bill, and what happened on this particular one, it was the EMC. I told you, we created the utility bills at 40% based on the info we received. Well, we created those bills and mailed them out. Guess what? 2 or 3 people paid those 40% bills. They shouldn't have paid that tax. This mistake that happened was caught a couple of weeks later. We informed the tax assessors, they went back and fixed it. But this particular company went ahead and paid that original tax bill. All right, now this is where I have the problem. You can read what I wrote right there on front, pretty much what I just said. We have to create, for a refund, we have to create that refund from a tax relief bill. Those first 3 pages shows what was given back to EMC, okay? Now, I got the date circled on this 4th page of that handout. My deputy tax commissioner created these refunds on January the 6th. I circled that. I didn't get this form acknowledged and put back in my box until January 25th. Do you see the legal implications there?
You bring up a good point. You know,
These people won't, I mean, you know, if it had gone on much longer, we would have had to pay them interest, okay? And again, I go back to, I need these forms back in a timely manner so my bookkeeper can post them and issue that check.
well, you bring up a great procedural thing here because, you know, I don't come to the office every day. And I come a lot. I'm not sure why the delay was on these. But, you know, if these things, it's just so imperative that these things get turned around that fast, this procedure that we have where the board has to look at it again. And so, you know, it's not gonna happen quick, because if I gotta get board approval on these. And the other question I have on this one was, this one resulted in someone getting refunded money. When we did the one in 2017, that was a board action, and we had to vote on it by board to refund money. Why didn't we have to do that in this case?
That's a good question for the tax assessors, okay? But it's explained in the ACO, okay?
Again, that question of legal liability and how these things flow, so that obviously was different. Somebody got overpaid. Well,
Yeah.
Where did the money come from, though, the refund, the 3819?
It came from, well, it
It
came
come
from
out
their
of-
payment.
It didn't come out of the county general fund.
It came out of my fund over there.
That's why we didn't.
Yeah.
So it was like,
That's,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah,
basically
good
like
point.
Sir.
a
Good
refund.
point. That
It was a
came
refund,
out of
yeah.
our money.
when you say your money, though, that's money that you're waiting to transfer over to the county general fund.
Exactly. That's we
It's just
pay-
you haven't transferred it.
We pay y'all, the school, the city,
Right.
Gatesville, out of that fund.
So you just took it out of
And see,
that.
when we get these back, and the reason, you know, we balance it months in, okay? And if we can get all this stuff done and handled before month's end, my bookkeeper keeps clicking along. And there's no holdup where she has to carry it over into the next month, okay? But yeah, I mean, we pay that out of our fund, okay?
Well, let me ask a question. Is there anything that we would need to do to allow what we're already doing, just to scratch and acknowledge? Would we need a resolution from the board to allow the chairman to do that?
That's a good put. Let me get that. I mean, I'm about to give you something right now. Okay. Any other questions about that handout? Have you seen this code before, Heath?
I don't know.
Okay. Sorry. You really don't have to read that whole thing. Section B don't even pertain to what we're talking about tonight. But this is probably where I feel the word granted needs to stay on there, okay? Everybody know what an insolvent list is? I'll briefly explain. Insolvent list is a list of tax bills that are past the statute of limitations that I cannot collect legally. Okay? When I came into office, we had past due taxes all the way back to year 2000. And creating an insolvent list allows me to clean up the digest. We had tens of thousands of uncollectible taxes on dead property, people that were passed away, the property wasn't no good and all that. And they encourage us, they being Department of Revenue, encourage us to clean up the digest by creating these insolvent lists and get those taxes off the digest. It helps, improve the collection percentage also. This tax relief application is used just for that purpose also. What I do in this case right here, Pick and Pay Stores, this is a bill or a leaf form that I created from a bill that was due from the year 2000. Well, I can't collect those taxes legally. I can ask them to pay it, but I can't collect it. They're gone anyway, so we won't be able to collect it. So it's just me cleaning off the tax digest. That's part of that is y'all's money. Part of that is y'all's tax revenue, okay? I could track Pick and Pay down wherever they are. I could go up to their corporate headquarters and say, hey, can y'all pay this bill? Will y'all pay this bill? Whatever, I don't know. But I wasn't able to do it, so I got rid of it. This is our way of getting rid of it. This is y'all's way of saying, okay, we're relieving them of that tax obligation to the county of
Okay.
the
Question.
insolvent list.
What about taxes owed to the city and the BOE?
Yeah, same thing.
They get this same form?
No. Nope.
They don't?
No, all of that's explained right here. Well, not explained, but written down right there. There's no way you can go to 3 different government authorities. And the state was involved on this. They don't collect property taxes anymore. But this bill was so old that the state even got revenue off of this. But no, this is just our way of saying, okay, we're relieving this tax in my office. This is our way of saying, okay, y'all, you're relieving the tax on this. There again, I go back to we've been rocking right along with no problem doing this. Now, y'all can do what you want to on this form, or about this form, about giving him the authority, about giving whoever the authority. If it's that big of an issue, maybe you need to get on the phone, Heath, with Department of Revenue and see what they say about it. But I don't believe in fixing something that ain't broke. So these are your options, okay? You brought up something a while ago. Leave it as is. We hadn't had an issue. You can let the county manager sign off on it. If he's got a question that, about one, you know, and I'll be glad to explain to him, but you've looked at these so much that you can pretty much tell what they are, except when we got the utility bills this last year. It's just about looking at them and learning what it's about. If you have questions about it, whoever has questions about it, I'll be glad to address it so you better understand it coming down the road. That's another option. Two options: leave it like it is, let the county manager sign off on it, or pass a resolution. That idea was brought up by the chairman back in 2020. If you need to pass a resolution, it don't take long
Pass a resolution to do what?
to give you the authority to sign off on these.
Do we need that if we're
That-
just
that would
striking and
be-
acknowledging it?
To what?
Do we need a resolution if we just continue to strike it and acknowledge it?
Again, and I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody in this room, but as I've said, there's no requirement that this board get involved in this form unless there's a tax refund. I certainly think it is a valuable piece of information that we're receiving. I think this board could vote and allow anybody to receive this form. I mean, Ms. Jones could receive it on behalf of the county, or Mr. Tinsley, whomever. But there's no requirement under the law. And that's not just me saying it, that's ACCG saying it. So,
I want you to look
I
at
mean,
the,
regardless of what the revenue department or whatever, I mean, they,
Unless it's a tax relief, which is what he's holding up here.
right.
This where, if it's tax relief, it has to come to us. But
And that's the same thing with the insolvency. I mean, that's basically what it is. So that's different than, you know, you got the two instances, you got the insolvency and you got the refund. Those are different than just receiving the documents.
I think we've got a lot of conflicting information going. I want you to look at the last page of that handout. Up top, I've got, this handout came from my procedure manual as tax commissioner. It just basically covers what you guys do, you know, don't go into detail. Your guys' authority, your board's authority. Correct errors and authorized refunds. Now, I'm sure if you look in your ACCG manual, that there's probably a section in there about about taxes and all that. Maybe that's what you should do. To me, this whole thing, I mean, forgive me for being so outspoken, but to me, this whole thing, beating a dead horse, whatever you want to call it, you know, it's rocked on and it's worse. But if it makes y'all feel better, pass a resolution. If you need me to change this form to suit whoever, show me a judicial order to change this form.
so you won't change the form, even though the form is not required.
This form has been approved by the Department of Revenue, my auditor, the tax commissioner's auditor. And it's worked for 40 years. I'm not gonna fix something that ain't broke.
Well, that's the difference. I think things evolve. 40 years ago, this stuff was done manually. I'm not so sure that there's probably not a better way to share this information, as our attorney has said. This is great information that needs to be shared with every commissioner so that they can see what actually is going on with the digest. But this form that you've been using for 40 years is not efficient, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But as to this board, guys, I'll do whatever you want me to do. If that man says it's required and it's legal, whatever you want me to do. But one thing that I have made it my, I'm not going to say I'm perfect about doing this, I make it my best effort not to sign anything, and Jason can probably attest to that. I don't sign anything unless I know I have the authority, this board authorizes me to sign it. If it's something that this board has got to approve. And so this form that's 40 years old says granted or denied. I just need to know, and if y'all want to say, Chairman, just do what you've been doing, strike it out, and acknowledge it, I'll be happy to do it. But you gotta understand, I get to it when I get to it. And I don't mean that in a bad way.
I know
I'm not a
what you're
40-hour employee like you.
I know what you're saying. That's why I bring them over the day that Angela fills them out. Okay? Maybe.
I mean, if I take vacation for a week, like
Yeah.
I'm leaving in the morning,
totally
I'm gonna be gone for a
understand
week.
I totally
They're gonna
understand
sit in that box.
But what I have a problem with is when they're laying on the financial officer's desk for 2 weeks, and I've told you in the previous email over 2 years ago that I need these back in a timely manner.
Okay.
Okay? You know, I get that. You know, we make it work, but,
Mr. Chairman, I have if I may.
Yes, sir.
Something that may, just something simple. If we could receive them electronically, then we could see a flow. You know what I mean? So if we got
scan them and send them to you,
Sure. Or, yeah.
Then that way every commissioner will get them.
Yeah.
and I can still get them back pretty quick, signed.
They still gotta come over hard copy if you want them signed.
I mean, that's a lot, to me, that's a lot of extra work.
I was just thinking I know the tax commissioner had mentioned, speed. So I was offering that as something that might speed the process.
So if you send an email, that satisfied?
An email
If you
with these
send,
attached.
you send us
But
an
you still have to sign the hard
email
copy,
attachment where all these are in there and it
You
goes
know
to every
what?
commissioner.
I can make that happen. I got girls that want to do some work. I'll get one of them to scan these forms in and send them to you guys as they come in. But I still have to have this hard copy signed. And I
That doesn't
understand,
sign, that doesn't do anything. Well, okay.
you know, let me throw this at you. You know, you guys do need to know what's going on with some of these forms sometimes. Whatever. Let Jason look at them. If there's something that comes up, whatever, and he can ask me and pass it on to you guys if it's a concern, if he sees it as a concern.
Can it be a e-signature? Because if it's emailed, then you can turn it around quicker. if it's
Are y'all willing to
e-signature.
set that system up for me? I like it simple. Right now, it's simple.
I mean, I think
Been doing it for 40 years.
Exactly.
Adobe.
Mr. Chairman, we still get into the issue of approve and deny.
I know.
And, I'm happy to look at any law that Commissioner Chastain provides me. But I've already conferred with everybody that you can confer with, and there's no,
Okay.
it's not even a requirement. You are not authorized to approve or deny unless it's
And even then, and especially if it's a refund, this board has to give me
the board
permission
has
to,
correct.
or
Because
delegate that authority to me.
you are giving
Or
money back to
the vice
a
chair.
citizen.
Have you checked with the Department of Revenue?
Okay.
That's the ACCG and whatever is y'all's go-to, the Department of Revenue is my go-to because that's necessary, that's who I answer to.
So can I just kind of try to wrap this? I don't think we're gonna have it doesn't sound like there's a cut and dry decision on this tonight. I would defer to, our county attorney and staff recommendation on a process that will get these things moving. And I'll do this if the board's okay with this. And I don't think we need this, if y'all are okay with me just for the time being, not to impede any process, I'll go back to doing what I was doing. And I'll acknowledge them and send them back. But I'm only gonna do that for so long until we have a process where I have the authority to do granted, denied. The simple answer to me is change the form where it doesn't say granted or denied. we just acknowledge that we've received it. If there's something like the past statute of limitations, those can be handled differently. If it's a tax refund, that obviously has to be handled differently. Can we at least,
So you're asking maybe we can create 3 forms. I don't know. To me, this form has worked and it still works. The question I have, you were striking through and writing acknowledge for over 2 years. Why all of a sudden is it an issue again? That's one question. You don't have to answer. That's what pops up. Basically you've already answered it, saying that you feel it's a legal concern. It was a legal concern back in 2020 when you suggested passing a resolution. A resolution could have been drawn up and passed several times since then to authorize it. My suggestion, again, is, put it like, my statement again is I'm not comfortable changing that form unless the DOR tells me to change the form. If you want to check with them, you can. It's not my place to tell y'all what to do about your authority on these forms. The Department of Revenue told me these are good, they passed muster, I'm good.
okay. You have anything else?
No, I do, but I'll just save it for another day because it's Valentine's and I'm late for a date.
Well, I missed mine, so morning.
Okay.
Let me, before we shut it all the way down, we don't, I don't, I've only seen maybe a couple tax refunds. You saying you use the same form for a refund?
We use it for refunds, creating bills, reducing property values, whatever the tax assessors tell us to do. But yes, I think it's very important that this form stays like it is just for the refund.
Well, the refund, that's what's got me, and that's we're going down another rabbit hole here. The only refund that I've known that we've done was the one that you showed us that we did back earlier, and we actually voted on. Now,
Right.
You're doing refunds that are not coming before us, and I think
And it's coming out of our fund.
Well, it's coming out of county funds.
Yeah.
It's your, you may
think
just,
that-
who's
I think
over
that-
desk is sitting at.
I
So-
think the difference is, Mr. Chairman, is that the ones that the tax commissioner does through his office are current digest, and then previous digest refunds, I think, have to be.
Because it says right here,
Yeah.
correct errors and authorize refunds.
Mm-hmm.
Duties of the county governing authority. So, but it doesn't specify current digest or previous
Well,
digest.
that's out of my book,
So,
That's
out of your book,
procedure
it says this board has to authorize all refunds, but we're not doing that.
When you sign off on this relief form, you are.
That's the issue. So,
Yeah, 'cause
if
in
I'm
the-
signing off on these
in the code
forms, then
section
I
it
have.
says governing authority,
The
not-
governing authority, and I'm part of it, but it ain't me. All right, we got more work to do. So if to keep the process going for a very short period of time, I'll sign these things and I'll acknowledge them. If you guys want, if you got another suggestion, if you want me to put them in your boxes, but he's not gonna get them back fast enough. So, we've got some work to do.
You can have
So-
a clerk make copies of them and pass them out to y'all, just so you.
But it's after the fact. It's after the fact that it's been granted or denied or whatever. And so,
I'm good with Chairman Allen signing them off until he.
acknowledge it.
Yep.
Okay.
So with that said, I got something that's been over here now for a couple of weeks that I really need to get back. I hope to get them back tomorrow.
You stick around, I'll sign them and hand them to you tonight.
I got a date.
Well, so do I. So if you're not gonna stick around, you'll get them next week.
Tomorrow's Wednesday, right?
Yes, sir. I'm on vacation the rest of the week, sir.
Okay. Well, if you'll sign the stick number 5, thank you.
That being said, moving on. Next item on the agenda is comments. Jason, you have anything?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Jones, you have anything?
I just wanted to remind the board that next Tuesday, the 21st, we have our joint projects
Oh, yeah.
meeting at 6 o'clock at the senior center.
Okay,
Meal provided.
It's the city's meeting.
bring some crackers. Okay, Mr. English, have anything?
I don't, Judge. Thank you.
All right, we've got some more work to do, obviously, and hopefully we can come to a, something that will work for all parties involved and pass the legal test. Mr. Wilder?
I just wanted to make sure I tell everybody it's almost over, but it's Valentine's Day. Enjoy your Valentine's Day, whatever's left of it.
That's it.
May not
Mr.
have
Jones?
My Valentine's Day is over, so. I want everybody to pray for James Ellington.
Yes, sir.
Not doing very well. He's in a hospital in Phoenix City now. He needs the extra prayers.
And if I know him, he's watching.
Yep, I hope he is. I hope he's able to watch.
Yeah.
Want everybody to remember to apply for the new homestead exemption if you hadn't already done it. It's gonna save you some money, especially when you get elderly like me. And also want everybody to talk to your school board representative and talk to them about getting the seniors some exemptions on their school board taxes. Amen.
Okay, and I really don't have anything, except I have double whammy. It's also my wife's birthday, so I need to go home too. So thank you. Oh, I forgot you.
Yeah.
Is your wife's birthday too?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I was just gonna see, I think all the spring registration, the sports is ended. I think it ended last Friday.
The 10th, I think.
Yeah, can we get a rundown of the numbers whenever those were available?
Sure.
For the participation? That's all.
Okay. Any final thoughts, comments? Hear none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? We're adjourned. Thank y'all all for coming. We're still live. Keep that in mind. Hey, Susan.
Hey, it's my mother-in-law's birthday too.
There
So
you
we
go.
got that double thing.
Yeah.